Welcome to Bitesize Edge, the podcast coming to you by Edge NLP, where our focus is unleashing people potential. I'm Pip Thomas, and today I'm going to be chatting with Tom White. Tom, I've known both as a delegate on some of our courses, but also more recently as a colleague, and I'm really looking forward to introducing you to him. So, Tom, welcome. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Pip. Yeah, I've had a great week, and this is the last thing of my week to do. So yeah, a lovely way to spend some time.
Oh, that's not bad. And then what have you got planned? Is that it? You closed down now for the
Um,
week?
oh, a couple of bits and bobs to do this afternoon. Nothing too strenuous though, and then into another lockdown weekend. So the thrills and spills of pottering around the house with the kids. But yeah, nothing too exciting, but also nothing too tiring either.
Fabulous, fabulous. It's nothing like getting to the end of the week. I'm looking forward to having weekends again when you go, well, hey, it's the weekend. Let's go
Mm.
and do loads.
Yeah, I know that feeling. It does feel like every weekend is a little bit similar at the moment, but hopefully, if the roadmap goes according to plan, we're not far away from that yet.
Yeah, life will be good. Life will be good.
Mm.
So, Tom, I've talked about when I introed you that obviously we first came into contact when you came to join us on some of the NLP practitioner course to start with.
Hmm.
Um, And you're now moving into a new field. You're leaving the corporate arena. You've set up your own business,
Yeah.
primarily focusing on coaching.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I'm curious to know from your perspective how NLP has influenced your journey.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, as you mentioned, I did my practitioner program getting on for 2 years ago now, which was brilliant, and I had an amazing time at that session. Really opened my eyes up to the way that people are and the way that people think and behave and the language that they use, and that's really fascinated me ever since. And that's now right at the forefront of my coaching, which that's primarily what I want to be doing now. With Kalenva coaching is working with clients on a one-to-one basis as a full-time gig rather than it being a sideline to what I did in my corporate world. And to that point around, if I think about the NLP communication model, that's pretty much the basis of a lot of my coaching work, is helping people to build their awareness of all of those unconscious processes that are going on, whether it's their meta programs, whether it's their values, whether it's their model of the world that they're not necessarily aware of, and helping them bring it into their awareness. And I love being able to support clients in doing that, because by doing it, suddenly with that new awareness, they've got more options or more choices where previously they felt like they might not have had any, or they couldn't
Mm,
necessarily see what they are.
yeah,
And ultimately, if you've got more choices, then you've got different ways of approaching things compared to the way that you have always done it before. And
yeah.
then you can move towards your future. And that fundamentally is what my coaching practice is about. And
Mm,
that's really developed over the last 2 years or so since I've discovered the world of NLP. So it's an absolutely intrinsic part of my coaching practice now.
it's fabulous. A couple of things you said there really kind of resonated. We did a webinar the other day, and one of the ladies who was on it happily said that she was quite skeptical about it and kind of thought it was jargonized and it was this and it was the other. And she said, I'm really open to understand what it's about. And the only kind of slide I took them through was the NLP model of communication, which was quite, for her, she had a bit of a revelation, might have been a revolution, who knows, but a bit of a revelation at the end. She went, oh my God, I get it.
Mm.
And I think that also worked with me from a perspective of when I first was introduced to NLP and I kind of went through that whole model and suddenly got that moment of going, we are all so different. We all getting the awareness around that we all experience an event in a different way, regardless of whether we're sitting next to each other on the sofa. We will still have a different perception of that event that then influences what we do going forward. It was a real moment for me, a real moment. Do you think that's something that with your clients when you're talking to them, if you use that as the heart of your coaching, do you find that there's that moment of that kind of the revelation where they go, oh my gosh, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I've worked with a number of clients where I've used that model, and sometimes I've been overt with it, and I've taken them through it, and said,
Mm,
here's a little bit of information, as well as coaching, almost stepping out of coach mode for a moment and into learning facilitator mode, which was my day job, and talking them through, and you can just see on their faces, I totally get it. That totally makes sense now that someone's explained it to me, or now that I'm aware of some of this detail. It's a real light switch for a lot of people. But then on the flip side of that, I've used it much more subtly, and I've never named it, and I've just
mm,
worked our way through it just to see, okay, what if I prod and probe here a little bit, or what if I ask a question that's going to help understand, model of the world or something along those lines. And so when you can be really subtle with it, and both ways of introducing it, whether it's overt or whether it's much more subtle, does seem to have quite an impact
mm,
with clients. And as an example, I was working with a client yesterday who talked about going on a Tony Robbins 4-day experience in addition to our coaching work. And the client was describing all the things that they went through, all the activities they went through, all the subsequent thinking. And I was just there thinking, I absolutely know what he's done there. He's just gone through the communication cycle, and
yeah,
you're talking about state, and now you're talking about behavior, and you're talking about physicality. And I thought, it's brilliant that this client has now got an awareness of those sorts
mm,
of things, because then our coaching conversation, which followed on from it, was brilliant. It was
mm,
so different to what we'd had previously, just because the client's eyes had been opened a little bit, and their mind had been opened a little bit
yeah.
to the way that they think. So yeah, it's fantastic.
I think you might be talking about unleash the power within.
That's the one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jules did that, and that was her introduction to NLP. So
Mm,
she came away from that and thought, I need to find out more about this subject. But and the word you use there a couple of times, which is so key, isn't it, to facilitate change, is awareness.
mhm,
Once you have that light bulb moment, that moment of awareness that you can, one, on how you are already thinking, but two, that then you can change that thinking, and
mm,
then three, that gives you a different outcome. Suddenly things start to fall in place for people, don't they? And you're almost
mm.
opening doors, unlocking previous ways of thinking.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And one of the things that I've said to numerous coaching clients over the years is, whilst yes, I am interested in what you think, I'm actually more interested in how you think.
Yeah.
And that's the bit that we don't always have the awareness of.
Mm,
We know what we think because it's our opinion, it's our perspective. But do we often stand back and think about, so why is it I think that, or why is it I think in that particular way?
mm,
And that's really where NLP slots in for me, is helping people to understand their go-to way of thinking. And does that help? Does it serve them well? Or actually, if
mm.
it's not serving them well, what do you want to do about it? Now that you
Yeah.
know it's not serving you well, what's next? How are you
Yeah,
going to change it?
absolutely. And I think also with that, because that's one of the phrases we use quite often,
Mm,
and I often kind of caveat it by saying, if I left it there, I don't care what you think, I care how you think. Enough said.
mhm,
It sounds a little bit. It needs to be. You need to build upon it for people to really understand that. But I think when also there's an appreciation that a thought is just that, it is a thought, and then we choose to react to that thought when in fact we could have a different thought if we wanted to, because a thought is purely a manifestation that we've created
mhm,
that has a set of actions that follow. And you can get to the end of those set of actions and kind of go, gosh, that was a really good move, well done. That wasn't my smartest move,
mhm,
you know but being able to recognize that you can change that thought process is fundamental to everything, certainly that we do in NLP, but certainly sits alongside in the coaching arena for sure.
mhm,
So Tom, as a coach, as someone with extensive experience in the corporate arena, in fact, we both share um, uh, um, the history when it comes to the employer. So the good old, good John Lewis partnership that I put up there on the pedestal still to this day as being the best organisation I've ever worked for, and I'm really glad I've worked for them. Moving from that size of a corporate arena now into running your own business, why coaching? Why coaching? And let me give you a caveat around that, Tom. Coaching as a word, I believe, is diluted massively. the amount of people I speak to who say, yes, I want to be a coach, I'm going to be a coach, and I'm sure they're all going to be fabulous at it. How do you make that word, that service that you're delivering, exceptional? Why coaching, Tom?
So I spent quite a bit of time thinking about this. As you might imagine, when launching a new business, you need your business plan, you need your offer, you need your website, but you also really need to think about, well, what's my purpose here?
Mm.
Why am I doing this in the first place? So I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I did like a spider diagram, a bit of a brain dump or a mind map about why I coach, and I wrote down absolutely everything I could think about why I coach, and then I spent a little bit of time color coding it into what do I get from coaching and what is in service of others. Um, and that was an interesting reveal, and it was probably about 50-50. And then I applied the old Simon Sinek's golden circles of why. So I rearranged all of those things into, why do I coach, how do I coach, and what do I get from coaching. And what was really interesting when I did that was the things that were right in the middle about why I coach were color coded of being in service of other people. They were the altruistic things. Overwhelmingly, those were in the middle. And that's when it really struck me that my purpose as a coach is to be in service of others, to be useful to other people's thinking, to other people's reflection. And whilst as a learning facilitator, that's absolutely the role I play. But I've also got information that I'm imparting and facilitating conversation. Where I operate in the coaching space, yes, I have information, yes, I've got knowledge, yes, I've got experience, but I'm not necessarily imparting that. I'm helping the other person to make their own decisions, to find their own way forward, and that's where my skill and experience is being used more so. So yeah, that for me is what the biggest kick I get from the coaching is being able to use my skills and experience as a listener, as a questioner, as an intrigued party, rather than holding the information and imparting it on somebody, which is what my other role as a learning facilitator
Yeah.
is. And absolutely, they both have their parts, and I love doing both. But coaching is where I'm getting more of the soul work, I think, is the way to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm getting the biggest kick right now, and probably has been for the last couple of years. And that's why I want to focus my attention on that for the rest of my career.
Brilliant. So when you say kick, define kick. What does it actually get for you, Tom?
So there's something for me about seeing a client have that moment of realization, and it's not necessarily the big eureka aha moment. It could just be something really subtle that you noticed in their body language, or you notice in the color of the clothes that they start wearing the next time you see them. And this is something that happened quite recently, where somebody
Okay.
wore something very different to what I'd seen them wearing before, and I thought, that's really interesting. I wonder what that's about. And when we got into it, we ended up realizing it's actually quite a subconscious thing, but how the client was now compared to when I last saw the client was very different, and that was just a physical manifestation of how they were feeling. So for me, I was thinking, that's amazing, that's brilliant. This client has managed to make some sort of shift as a result of a conversation that we've had and the subsequent reflection and thinking they've done, where it's now manifesting at an unconscious level in the clothes that they wear. And that for me is the power of coaching, and that's the stuff that I get the satisfaction, that knowing that I've just played even the smallest role, because I'm very clear that the client is doing all the hard work here, but if I've just played the smallest role in supporting them to think in a different way or act and behave in a different way, then that's really the kick for me, is just
Mm.
knowing that I've played a little part in that.
I get that. That resonates for me very much. If I think about as an individual, I love new challenges. I love starting things. I love kind of really experiencing new opportunities. I have constant ideas about business ideas. Honestly, Tom, I should have multiple businesses, the amount of ideas I have. And thankfully, I don't. But the one thing that really keeps me completely connected with Edge NLP is the fact, almost what you've described there, It's the moment of when we're working with individuals or a group of people, and either something massive or something small occurs, and you see that shift in someone, and you kind of go, that's why I do this, and I never get tired of this. I never get bored of this. Because every time it happens, it's a revelation for that individual, um, and the impact on their life. You just know if they run with it, whatever it might be, if they run with it, the difference is going to be huge. Um, and all we do, all I do in that part, in my role with that, is kind of help facilitate their journey. Sounds a bit cliche, and it's so true. So I get where you're coming from that perspective. Interesting, you said the example you gave about the person who was wearing something different. If I think about one of the courses we did fairly recently, we got to the final day where people were doing metaphors, sharing some of their stories with us. And one of the people in the course came in looking totally different. So they had shaved, obviously it's a man, just to be clear. They had shaved, they were wearing a shirt, do you know what I mean? They looked like a totally different person from day one. And their reasoning for it was because they almost felt that they'd reached all at the pinnacle of this part of their journey. And this is kind of emulating where they were from a mindset perspective. It's quite phenomenal, isn't it, how it shows up in so many different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love it. I love it whenever you get the slightest hint that something might be different. Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. And so from your perspective, NLP, so let me tell you some of the challenges that we often get. These are going to be familiar for you. So it's manipulative. What do you say about that one then, Tom?
Yeah, that's one that I even saw today. Funnily enough, when I was doing a little bit of googling, and some articles came up about NLP being manipulative, and yeah, unfortunately, there is a school of thought that thinks that about NLP, and I can only think that opinion has come from seeing it being used in a manipulative manner. Or something along those lines, and maybe it's been tarnished by being used by big business or in sales to the degree where it's coming across as getting your own way, rather than it being about building rapport and building relationships and connection with people, about, yeah, like I say, getting your own way or getting one over on somebody else. So yeah, I can see where that opinion might come from.
Yeah.
It's certainly not my experience of it. It's not how I use NLP, and no one I know that uses NLP uses it for nefarious purposes. But it is something that I've seen in the media or on Google.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other bit I hear, well, I say often, a bit of a generalisation. It's not unusual to hear when people say they have a fear of that it's going to change their life dramatically, or they want it to change their life dramatically. And kind of my take on that is it will change your life as much as you want it to change your life. Remembering that you always have control over this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and again, I think it's because NLP is it is powerful, but it can also be quite subtle as well. And it does come down to, you may not realize necessarily the changes that you're making until you make them, and you might be thinking, oh yeah, where did that come from, or where did that thought come from, and suddenly you're making a change. But it does come down to you're not going to do anything that your unconscious mind is not going to let you do. You're not going to do anything that compromises your values, and unless you make a deliberate choice to go against your values. So yeah, it's to your point, I think it will change your life as much as you want it to / enable it to, or allow it to. You are in control at all times.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And there, I often say it's not the panacea of everything. You're not suddenly going to don your Superman cape and Wonder Woman pants, and life is always dandy. But what you do get from NLP, without and the subtlety element, Tom, I think is absolutely key. What you get though is when you're in those positions, it's about one, identifying you have the resources to change it. To what degree will depend on the circumstance, but you do have the resources to change it. and it might be wholly appropriate to be sitting in that place of negativity, lack of resourcefulness, or feeling like such at that moment in time. It's the clicking out of it, isn't it? It's the awareness again, which is the word that you used at the beginning,
Mm.
which is key,
Yeah.
fundamental to change. So talking about change, Tom,
Mm-hmm.
little birdie, as in myself and Jules, has told me, because we've been having this conversation, that you might be joining us.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I am very pleased and very excited to be joining the ranks at Edge.
Yay.
Yeah, very much looking forward to. I think it's June is the first time that I'm going to be doing some
That's
work
right.
with yourselves in some co-facilitation and some coaching work at the practitioner program that's running in June, and we've got some other dates lined up for the rest of the year, which I'm very, very excited about because having been through the practitioner program 2 years ago and then returning a couple of times as like a returning graduate to do some coaching on the day, I got such a kick out of that because I got to revisit some content for myself, but then I got to support other people who were new to NLP and going through that process to now be involved where I'm going to be there over a much longer period of time rather than just one day here or there, being in there for 3 or 4 days or even a whole week. That's very, very exciting because it ticks a box for me in terms of my facilitation and my love for facilitation. It ticks another box for the NLP and my love for that, and it ticks that third box around coaching as well. So it's the trifecta of the things that I absolutely love doing for work. So it's going to be fantastic. I'm very much looking forward to that.
Oh, we're delighted you're joining us, Tom. I can't think of a time when we've run a course and I haven't shared your goal with
Mm,
people, and about how the power of the mind and what you're able to achieve when you
mm,
when you when you not just set your mind to it, but when you have everything aligned. That's the key thing, isn't it? Everything is aligned so that you're able to go forward in the way that you choose.
mm.
So I've shared that. So your name is synonymous already, Tom. People know all about you. So the fact that you're going to be coming to join us is fabulous. I know that Jules, as well as myself, are both delighted to have you on board, and I think the energy you will bring will be superb. We've also been talking about, and I know we need to explore it more outside of doing our podcast today, but we've also been talking about creating some coaching programs.
Yeah. So yeah, we're in the early stages of thinking about that at the moment, and really just thinking about how could a complementary coaching offer be part of what Edge offers. So whether it's something that complements a program or whether it's something that stands alone, how can we really beef up the value that coaching could add in conjunction with NLP.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's a really exciting piece of work because again, it combines all those elements of that really excite me. So yeah, that's it's kind of in the incubator phase at the moment. I
it
think
is.
is
It
the best
is.
way of describing it. So
Yeah,
something to look out for in the coming months, I think.
brilliant. So Tom, this is
Yeah.
your opportunity to big yourself up, which isn't something you tend to do very often. You're a very modest individual. I know exactly how capable you are, so I'm very excited about you joining us at Edge. I'm also extremely excited about your future with your own coaching business, and well, your own, yeah, it's coaching, but you are doing some other elements within that, aren't you?
Yeah.
Business. What can people expect, Tom, from having you on the courses with us? What will you bring to it?
What will I bring? What a question to ask. So, I think one of the things that I'll bring is just a sense of authenticity. I am what you see, and I am what's the expression? What you get what you see on the tin, or something along those lines. Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
fumbling my words
yeah,
there, but yeah, it does exactly what it says on the tin. It's like the
that's
Ron
the
Seal
one.
advert.
We got there.
So yeah, I am authentic. I want people to see me. I want people to see the truest version of me. So that's absolutely what I bring when I'm working on a course. I've been facilitating learning for about 15 years, so I bring a wealth of knowledge and experience in that particular field as well, and that's important because certainly in these virtual worlds, if we happen to meet on a virtual course, keeping the engagement levels there, keeping it interesting, using different styles of facilitation and so on is really important for keeping keeping the energy up, because I'm sure a lot of the listeners have been on a lot of Zoom calls this year, and it can be
God,
hard
yeah.
to focus sometimes. So I've got a lot of experience in the virtual facilitation as well as face to face, so that's something else I'll bring. I think the other things really are then energy and enthusiasm for the topic. Working with NLP, as I mentioned earlier, it's something that I'm so interested in, and I'm still learning, and I learn from other people. So as well as helping you learn, I'm going to learn from so many people that we meet along the way, yourself and Jules included. So it's there's a lot of different things that I can bring to the program, but ultimately it's not about me, it's about the listeners and potential delegates that come on the courses, and I'm there really just to help with the learning process.
Oh, Tom, fabulous. Thank you. So, Tom, I'm really excited that you're going to be joining us. You're right. The first course is in June, but in fact, you're doing two in June, aren't you? You're coaching on masters with us,
Yeah.
and then you're going to be facilitating on the practitioner course. And
I
I
believe so.
am
Yeah.
very excited about that. Not only because hopefully, all being well, we're going to be back in the training room. How lovely will that be? Physically
Yeah.
seeing people. It'd be so nice to notice that people still have legs. That's, it's going to be a plus, isn't it, really? But there we go. Tom, thank you for joining me today. I can't wait to, I've said it already, to have you on board. For those of you listening, I'd be underselling Tom if I said he was anything other than an extraordinary coach. And he will bring great value to whoever he's working with, either within the Edge environment, but within your own business, Tom. And I wish you the best of luck for the future with
Thank
that
you
as
very
well.
much. Very kind of you to say, and thank you for having me along today. It's been wonderful talking, and I really look forward to meeting new NLP delegates and graduates as the months go by.
Fabulous. Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome. Thank you, Pip.
So if you want to hear more from Bitesize Edge, follow us on SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and now Google Music, the home of NLP and unleashing people's potential. Have a great day, everyone.